What's going on, everybody? It's Wade. Welcome back to the Mostly Music Media podcast. Today we're going to get into our first real-world example of how learning music theory can actually help us. So first things first, we're going to start talking about major scales. To really truly understand music theory and be able to use it in a real-world application, we have to understand what a major scale is. And before we talk about major scales, we really have to understand intervals. We're only going to be talking about two intervals today, the half step and the whole step. So, a half step, if you're a piano player, it's going from a white key to a black key, or a black key to a white key. There are only two instances that is not true, between the notes B and C, and between the notes E and F. If you're a Git fiddler, a half step is simply going one fret to the next. So two adjacent frets are half steps. Now, a whole step on a piano is going from a white key to a white key, or a black key to a black key, except if we're in those two instances we spoke about earlier. If we're on a B, a whole step would go from a white key to a black key, go to C sharp, and if we're on an E, it would go to an F sharp. On guitar, a half step is one fret. Can we take a guess what a whole step would be? Two half steps, very good. So we would go 2 frets away. Yeah, I know, music, math. I'm not particularly a huge fan of math, but it does help to have basic math skills. Relating it to music, not trying to scare anybody. You don't need to know calculus. But music and math do have a very huge relationship, and I'm sure that we'll have videos in the future that discuss that. So now that we understand what half steps and whole steps are, I want to tell you a formula that uses intervals that we can build major scales starting on any note. So what is an interval? An interval is just the distance between one note to the next. I'm only talking about this stuff just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So when I get to rambling and get excited about all this business, it'll make sense to you. So this intervallic formula, which is a formula built off of intervals, is 2 whole steps, then a half step, then 3 whole steps and a half step. I'm going to go ahead and write this on the board. I wrote that right underneath our musical alphabet. Forgot to mention that, obviously. We've got A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and then those notes repeat. This may be a duh moment for some of us, but not all of us read music, and not all of us are super familiar with the musical alphabet and musical notation, so I wanted to make sure that I had mentioned that as well. Now, this intervallic formula of 2 whole steps and then a half, 3 whole steps and then a half, to create the major scale, I like to think of a picture of the piano.
Right here's where I want you to cut to like a picture of the piano.
On the piano, you'll notice that there are white keys and there are black keys. There are groups of 2 black keys and then groups of 3 black keys. I use the picture of the piano in my mind as a way to memorize this intervallic formula. You'll notice there are 2 whole steps, which relate to the group of 2 black keys. Then we have a half step. Then there's 3 whole steps, which I relate to the group of 3 black keys on the piano, and then another half step. So that visual representation of 2 black keys, half step, 3 black keys, half step, makes me remember whole step, 2 whole steps, put a half step in there. Whole step, whole step, whole step, 3 whole steps, put a half step in there. Once we have this intervallic formula just blazed into our mind, it's very easy. We can start on any given note and be able to play the major scale using that given intervallic formula. So I'm going to demonstrate on the guitar here right now. We're just going to start in the key of C, which I like to call the key of the people because we don't have to think about sharps or flats. It's just these note names. So if we start on the note C, which if I'm on the low E string on guitar, we would have that on the 8th fret, right? We go up a whole step, that gives us D. Go up another whole step, E. Go up a half step, F. Go up a whole step, G. Another whole step, A. Another whole step, B. And then a half step, C. Bang, we've got our C major scale. And if we play those notes in a row, you will hear the major scale sound. That's a sound that we've all been familiar with, we've all heard our entire lives. There are many different songs that literally use the notes of the major scale one after the next in order to create melodies. Joy to the World is one of them. I'm sure that you could come up with 20 more on your own. In fact, a little side quest exercise would be try to find 10 songs that use the notes of the major scale as the melody, and go ahead and drop those into the comments below. I'd love to hear what some of the songs are that you guys come up with. The next thing that I want to discuss is what we call scale degrees. So, we discussed the notes of the major scale, C major. I'm going to go ahead and write these on the board. And notice the notes of our C major scale and the notes of the musical alphabet, they're the exact same, only we start on a C instead of an A, right? Okay, so when talking about scale degrees, the first note of the C major scale is C. So that would be the first scale degree of the C major scale. The second note of the scale is D. So it would be the second scale degree. The seventh note is B. So it would be the seventh scale degree. Are you seeing how this is working? Where the note lays in order when the scale is played and spelled out, the number in order that note is in the scale, that's its scale degree. So these particular notes happen to be associated with particular scale degrees because we're in the key of C major. Now, if we were in the key of G major, the notes would be different for the given scale degrees. So the first scale degree in G major would be a G, because you start the G major scale on a G, right? We started the C major scale on a C. We're going to start the G major scale on a G. Then, following our whole, half order, we can get notes of the G major scale. I'm just going to cheat because I've got the musical alphabet up there that starts on an A, and because I'm a music nerd and I've done this for a long time, I know what the notes for this G major scale are. And basically this, but we just put a G out in front, so that makes it easier. So we've got G, it's the first scale degree in the key of G. We go up a whole step, that gives us A, which is the second scale degree. Go up another whole step, we get B. Go up a half step from there, we have C, etc., etc., etc. So knowing this intervallic formula makes it possible for us to create major scales starting on any given note. There are a couple of other things that we have to make sure that we're aware of. We're going to talk about those in a different video whenever I discuss the circle of fourths, not the circle of fifths. I'm a circle of fourths boy. A lot of people like to talk about the circle of fifths. Yes, it's got its benefits. Yes, it's a valid thing. It's just the wrong way, in my opinion. And we'll discuss why I feel that way. I've seen many videos by people that I love and respect musically that like to think of the circle of fifths. That just makes my head hurt. Again, I'll explain why I feel the way I do in a video in the future. The last thing that I do want to talk about with you in this particular video, though, is we've discussed what are half steps and whole steps. How do we create a major scale using the intervallic formula? Now the next thing that we need to understand and discuss so that we can start getting into harmony and actually understanding what harmony is triads. And what are triads? Basically, the easiest way to explain what a triad is you take the first note of your scale. So we'll use the C major scale. Our first note is C. You skip the second note, you take the third note. You skip the fourth note, you take the fifth note. Bang. C, E, and G becomes the C major triad. Now, one thing that I'm a huge fan of is taking, obviously we're seeing there are 7 notes in every major scale, every diatonic major scale, right? So I like to start on each and every single note of that scale, and using this formula of take the note, skip, grab that note, skip, grab the next note. That gives us triad, 3 notes, triad, right? I like to harmonize the major scale in triads. So that's creating triads based off of each and every single scale degree. You seeing how I'm doing this? C, D, E. I'm just basically writing the C major scale on the bottom, then doing the skip one, grab, so I get 3 notes based off of every single scale degree. That's imperative, in my opinion, to understanding and truly knowing your major scales. We need to understand the major scale, right? We need to understand how to harmonize it into triads, and then we also need to understand all of the modes that are created from the major scale. Also, a video that's going to be coming at your face later. It's not trying to throw so much at you that you can't truly absorb stuff. While I am about education for the sake of education and knowledge for the sake of knowledge, I think it's kind of dumb for me to just throw a bunch of stuff at you if you don't get a chance to truly absorb it. It's not really knowledge if you don't get it and you can't actually use it. The modes of the major scale are definitely planned out for a video in the near future. The next video that we talk about for our Functional Music Fridays is going to be discussing how we create triads off of each one of the major scale degrees, and then we're going to create 7th chords, and we're going to discuss how chords are derived from scales. So every chord in the entire history of ever is born from a scale, and how chords and scales start to go together. This is going to truly be a way of us making theory functional, because now we'll understand, oh, when I see this chord, I can use this scale or mode to improvise over it or to compose over it, which is what we really want to be doing, right? We want to be able to use this knowledge functionally in real life settings, so it doesn't feel like we're sitting through this academic class trying to be hoity-toity, better than thou sort of music theorists. We want to be music doers. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please drop them down in the comments. We'll either answer them straight in the comments, or if we have a lot of people that have similar questions, I'll make a video on it for the future to address what's going on with it. Please remember that we're going to be dropping content every Friday unless we have some weird scenario going on. So please keep checking in. Join us on our YouTube channel, our TikTok channel, and our Instagram page. And I can't wait to keep sharing knowledge with you, and I really look forward to hearing what y'all's opinions are and the things that you want to learn from me. So have a great day. We'll see you next time.